And good afternoon, I shall say, for all you college football fans. It is college football wraparound time. What an epic intro we now have here on the show. Our thanks to our editor, Colton, for putting all this together. This is awesome. All right, guys. So, to begin today's show, it's time for our first ever recap. That's right. All right. Florida State has not started 1-0 since 2016. And a weather delay was not going to hold them back as they blew out Duquesne 47-7. Vanderbilt headed to Hawaii for a game in paradise, and Vandy had what you could call their best performance in years, defeating Hawaii 63-10. UConn led through most of this one until the Aggies offense showed up and helped Utah State win 31-20. Illinois hosting Wyoming. This one was all Illini all game long. 38-6. Illinois with the win. Florida Atlantic showed up and showed out as they manhandled Charlotte 43-13. North Texas and UTEP would also deal with a weather delay, but North Texas would not be deterred as they go on to beat UTEP 31-13. And finally, Nebraska and Northwestern playing in Dublin, Ireland. Nebraska had the lead until late in the game when Northwestern seals the deal with a 31-28 victory. And this is your Week 0 recap. So, welcome to College Football Wraparound, everybody. What a way to start it out. And now, to be able to talk with Colton, my co-host for today. As you can see, our schedule is a little bit different on there as we want to do for today. So, don't mind our little technical difficulties on the slideshow. Of course, I put that together a little bit earlier, and that was on me. But now let's have Colton join in. So as he gets himself in here, here he is. What's going on, Colton?
Nothing much.
All right, we have a lot of college football to talk about. I want to start by talking to you about Florida State and Vanderbilt starting 1-0. Florida State hasn't started 1-0 since 2016. And shockingly enough, Vanderbilt started 1-0 in 2018. That's the last time they did. So I want to ask you, what is your thoughts on this?
It was kind of shocking. I expected Hawaii to win, to be honest. But, it was kind of a pleasant surprise because I do like Vanderbilt. So, I don't think they're going to keep this up, but I think they are going to win 3 more games.
You know, looking at the landscape of how they did this game and how they play. So you see, like, Vanderbilt allows on the first drive, Hawaii just runs down their throat and scores the first touchdown of the game. So as a college football fan, you're sitting there like, okay, we're about to see the same Vanderbilt as we always have, and that is a team who will always be terrible. And it seemed like at first it's going to be the same Vanderbilt as we always get. But then we saw after halftime, and Vanderbilt has this big lead. Well, not really big. I believe it was like 21 or 28-10 at halftime. And then they just explode for 35 points in the third quarter. This is a new Vanderbilt. Let me ask you, do you think that they'll be better than like last place in the SEC? Do you think they could actually be 13?
I think South Carolina is the only team that could possibly be worse.
South Carolina. Okay. Um. So I do want to ask you about that then. How come? What do you see from South Carolina that you don't think is going to be all that good, and you think Vanderbilt is just better than them?
I'm not biased at all, but their quarterback is a bit of a snake, so I'm not gonna say his name though.
And folks, if you wanted to get a little bit of information, Colton is an Oklahoma fan, so he's a little bit salty over the whole Spencer Rattler situation. So, um, yeah, I can understand that very much. Of course, I'm an Alabama fan, so I've never had to deal with star quarterback that I really care about leaving, and then all this other stuff. So, either way, we are gonna let's talk about Florida State though. Um, what's your feelings on Florida State?
Uh, I've always also not biased at all. I've always liked Florida State, so I don't think they're gonna be amazing because they're never amazing, but I think this is a step in the right direction. I think I forget his name. Their coach. I think he's talented and he's the closest thing to Bobby Bowden they have had since Bobby Bowden.
Yeah, Mike Norvell's been really good for Florida State. I think so far. Of course, it hasn't really shown up. They haven't made a bowl game yet with him, and he has been better than Willie Taggart so far because you had Willie Taggart right after Jimbo Fisher, and that was a disaster. So, of course, Florida State coming up this week, they will be headed to New Orleans, Louisiana, to play what is essentially a home game for the LSU Tigers, and so that is Sunday night. We will detail that a little bit later in the show, but now I want to change our direction. Let's talk about Nebraska and Scott Frost's future. Of course, last week, as we saw, they had the lead in the fourth quarter again, and they blew it again, just like they did all last year, and just sort of what it's been the same consistently for this Nebraska team. So, Colton, what do you feel like is the future for Scott Frost at Nebraska?
I think he's gonna finish out this season. Then, and I like Scott Frost, but I feel like Nebraska. There's so much they can tolerate. Having like losing by like one score every game last year, right? Was it one score? Okay.
I'm pretty sure they said that every game they lost was a one-score game, which is 8 points or less.
Yeah. So, yeah, having that happen last year, that was kind of that's kind of made Nebraska stop and think. And then this year, I think they're going to be decent, but I don't think they're be a very great team. So I think by the end of the season, if he's not fired, he's going to step down or get a different job. But I think if he does get fired or anything, or if he steps down or anything, I think he will end up at another school. I think he might go to the SEC, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, I think the guy is a really great coach. I mean, I think the thing that a lot of people will look at and like remember about Scott Frost, this guy, he coached a UCF team when he first got there, and they hadn't won a game yet. Mm-hmm. Like literally, they went 0-12. The next season, they go 6-6. They've got a bowl game, and this is incredible. And then they come back the next season, and they are undefeated, and they consider themselves national champions, even though they didn't even play in the national championship game. So I mean, that's an incredible turnaround. But also at the same time, this is UCF. And then, now, you take a job at your alma mater in Nebraska, which, in my opinion, I feel like if you're from that school, you do have a safety blanket per se because, you played here, so we're going to give you a little bit more opportunity to stay here and to fail and to fix things wherever you see fit. So I do feel like that Nebraska has kept him as long as they will. And I think this year is the year where they truly say, show me the results or you're out of here. That's just how I feel like Nebraska's going to be. That's not crazy to assume, is it?
No, I think you're right. I think by the end of the year, Nebraska will have to make a decision about Scott Frost. It might not be the right decision. They might end up keeping him, but I think they're gonna have to figure something out. Or maybe they fire him middle of the season. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah. Yep. So we just talked about Nebraska and Scott Frost, if you're just joining us. So, of course, they start 0-1 against Northwestern. So, I do want to ask you, what do you think they can clean up about the way they play?
Honestly, I think they should just play less aggressive because they went for a onside kick in the third quarter, which is like bizarre. If you're gonna take a onside kick, I don't think you'd be up 11 points and in the third quarter. Maybe if you're up by 3 or 7 points in the fourth quarter, towards the end of the game, maybe that's reasonable. Still, if you're winning, I don't think you need an onside kick unless it's the last 5 minutes of the game at most.
I totally agree with you. I thought it was pretty stupid for them to attempt that at all. It was bizarre, and it was something that that a lot of Nebraska fans are going to look back at, and they're going to point the finger at them and be like, that was one of the moments that killed your coaching experience here at Nebraska. Because you think about it, that changed the entire feel of the game. Because in one play, you've got all this momentum, and then you don't. Because now Northwestern is going to score, and they're in great territory to score. So, I mean, yep, it hurt them, and that's going to hurt Scott Frost in the long run, because if they can't muster up at least 8 wins this season, then he's out the door, in my opinion. So
I don't think if they end up being good the rest of the season, and call me crazy, I see them. Part of me says that they're gonna be awful and win like 5 games, be like 5-7 maybe. But also part of me says that maybe they will be like 8-4. It's not the craziest thing, but I think there's a chance. Scott Frost is kind of one of those coaches that one game he'll be awful, and then the next game they'll be playing like national champions.
Yep. All right. So now let's turn our attention now to the college football playoff. And Colton, this is your roll your eyes moment. The playoff, which currently is at 4 teams, is going to be expanded to 12. That's right, folks. The playoff is going from 4 teams to 12. So, the big question here, and here's the main detail that you have to know right now. There's still other things that are being worked out, but what's going to happen is all Power 5 conferences will have a team in the playoff because their champion will be in.
Mm-hmm.
Then, the top group of 5 champion will get into the playoff. So, there is 6 guaranteed spots to conference champions.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you've got 6 at large. So, Colton, tell me, what is your feelings on this? Because I'm going to tell my opinion after you get yours in.
I think this is the most idiotic, stupid decision the NCAA has made. You can say name, image, likeness. Sorry, that was a pretty bad decision because it's pretty much. It was Nick Saban who said it. It's like legalized cheating, and this is pretty bad because you're gonna have teams that are like 9-3 that don't deserve it. Like Auburn, for instance, they don't deserve to be in the national championship. But one way or another, they're just an example. They might be able to find a way to win a national championship, and it's just bogus and bizarre. It shouldn't be a thing. There should be at most 8, but 4 is, in my opinion, 4 is the best decision because you have 2 teams that could win. This way, you have like 6. Like it makes no sense to me. And there's too many teams that can win, and the best team's not gonna win this way. This way, it's just gonna be the luckiest team. If they keep it at 4, then it's gonna be the best team every year, how it has been. Last year, the best team was Georgia. The year before that, the best team was Alabama. You just go on and on with different bad reasons, but I think this is a bad decision by the NCAA.
I agree with you, and here I'm gonna really give y'all some points that really I don't believe has been considered highly within the CFP. So the main thing here is student athletes, because if you look at college football, you've got winter practices like after the football season ends. It's not too long until they're back to practice. Then you had your spring practices, then you got your summer practices, plus you got school, and you got throughout the winter and fall and winter is the season. And really, if you think about it, that in between like your last game and the college football playoff, that's your Christmas break. That's what it is. You get a holiday break right there from college football, and now you're taking out a lot of time for school for even more football. And then here's another point, and that is, this does not help have parity in the sport. You know what you've just done? Because as long as Nick Saban is at Alabama, you're guaranteed to see Alabama in the playoff. Even take for example, like the 2019 Alabama team. If you would have had the same model, like this model that they're fixing to introduce by at least 2026, then Bama would have been in because they were 10-2 after the season. Their 2 losses were their 2 biggest games, LSU and Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of their schedule that year, there was nothing impressive because they lost both of the games that would have been big time for them to get into the playoff, but they would have been in anyway because it's Alabama. Then you're gonna ensure that Ohio State's in the playoff every year. So them two are locks every year, whether they get in because they're a conference champion or whether that they are an at-large team. They're in no matter what. So That's point number 2. And then number 3, like Colton said, this does not guarantee that the best team of the whole year is going to actually be your champion at the end of the year. Because what you're going to see is you're probably, I would not be shocked at all if at some point during this model, the 12th best team is going to end up winning. And then it's not, and then it's going to be a team that's number 12, and it's going to be a team that's like 8-4. I mean, come on, this is absurd at this point.
Every year, the 12 best team's gonna win because they're gonna have it the easiest. Because they're gonna find a way to make this like the NFL, how they have it, where the number 1 and 2 teams, well, the number 1 in each side,
number 1 never wins.
No, they never win because they get the first game, they always get a bye, and then all these other teams get more practice. They don't have to practice for it, then they always lose because they're inexperienced. It's like they're purposely trying to make not the best team win. If you want the best team to win, let them play every game. But how they do it, they're making it where they want the worst team to play the most because that gives them most practice and that gets their best players. That makes them better because they have practice and they'll be the best on the field. But then for these better teams, like for instance, if Alabama's number 1 and Georgia's number 2, they're not going to win because number 12, which for instance, we could say like Texas or something like with Tennessee, one or the other, they will always win because they're number 12. And they'll have the easiest schedule.
Yep. And then also, if you look at the conference championship at this point, I mean, let's say you are Alabama and you go into the conference championship like, 12-0. You don't have to win that game. You're already in.
Yeah. It's just another way of them making it easier on certain teams and harder on other teams. But like teams, like you could even have like 6-6 teams some years if it's a bad enough year. 6-6 teams could be in the playoff, and you have no choice but to include them because they're the highest team. You could include. That's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But if it gets bad enough, that could happen. And no one wants to watch Nebraska in the national championship. Let's be honest. Nebraska is a fun enough team to watch. Not in the national championship. If you want to see the national championship, you want to see the 2 best teams. Mm-hmm. Like last year, Alabama versus Georgia was the 2 best teams. Yep. 2 years ago, Alabama versus Ohio State. That was the 2 best teams. LSU versus Clemson, 2 best teams. So obviously, if you want 2 best teams, go with the 4 team playoff. And I think a few years after they make this rule, they're just going to change it right back because it's not going to work. It's like the FBS. People were saying that they should put the FBS back because the FBS national championship is better because it's the 2 best teams. It's the same thing. In a few years, everyone's going to start liking it, but it's still not going to be that good. You just stick to how you always have had it.
Well, they're going to see that that the same 2, Alabama and Ohio State are going to get there. They're consistently going to be either in the semifinals or in the championship a lot. And here's the thing. Even with the 4-team playoff, let's take Georgia's side here. Even if you, going into that SEC championship game, let's be honest. They didn't have to win that game to get into the playoff.
Yeah.
Even a 4-team playoff, Georgia didn't even have to win the SEC championship to even be there. So,
LSU a few years ago.
LSU wouldn't have had to.
They didn't have to win the last 2 games that season and they still would have won. They still would have been in a national not national, in the playoff. It's just kind of biased. To say it nicely, it's kind of biased.
Well, we have got to move on. Of course, the expansion talk, we'll get more into it throughout the season because this is a big deal in college football. And this determines your champion. And folks, this is a big deal if you are a college football fan. So hopefully nobody's really stressing too hard on this. But I will stress this, and that is the 4-team playoff works better than what the 12 team is going to work. Once you get the 12 team, and once you see that the same teams are going to be in the national championship or the semifinals every year, folks are going to be regretting this idea of the 12-team playoff.
And the FBS works better than the 14 playoff. So they keep on adding on. It's not going to help. It's just going to screw everything up.
All right. So now we move on to top 5 hot seat coaches. And Colton, this was something that you had really wanted to do. And I thought, you know what? Let's talk about this because this is something that, needs to be talked about because there are 5 coaches in college football that at least we believe that should be fired. So Colton, go ahead. You begin.
All right. So, number 1 is Brian Harsin. Number 2 would be Scott Frost. Number 3, and forgive me, I forgot his name. The guy at Colorado. What's his name?
Karl Dorrell.
Him. Number 4, Shane Beamer. That's South Carolina. And number 5 is a little bit shocking, but it's not really. Jim Harbaugh.
Okay. So if you want 5 from me, I mean, Scott Frost Scott Frost is definitely up there. I mean, to be honest, if you think about it, there's just a bunch of coaches here in college football, but Scott Frost is definitely the top guy. I'm thinking.
And Brian Harsin.
Brian Harsin is, I think, honestly, with some of the issues that are going on behind the scenes, even if he's not guilty of some of the stuff that's been going on, I just think that, I've looked at how they're going to be. I mean, TJ Finley is going to be their starting quarterback. I just have a feeling that Auburn is going to be the worst team in the SEC this season, and they're probably going to end the season like 5-7, maybe.
To be honest, Brian Harsin, it's not that he's a bad coach. For me, it's what he's doing behind the scenes doesn't really match up to me. Like, one day, everyone in Auburn will absolutely love him. He'll be, everyone will love him. He'll be, beloved. And then the next day, he'll do something so chaotic that Auburn's going to be like, oh, we have to fire him. It's just not going to stop. It's like Urban Meyer, for instance. He did some pretty troublemaking things. And then we thought it was going to stop when he went to Ohio State. Then he kept on. Then when he went to Jacksonville, the NFL team, you'd think he'd be there for a long time. He wasn't even there 2 seasons. He was only there 1 season. And then they fired him because he was so controversial and did bad things that got him fired. And I think it's going to be another thing like that. It's just not going to stop until he's off the team.
Yeah. Okay. So the third guy I was thinking about that. The third guy that I was thinking about would be someone like Tom Allen from Indiana, because after the 2020 season, they haven't been that great. So I think he's on the hot seat.
The guy at Iowa State also could be someone.
Matt Campbell, I don't think so. I think he's fine.
Well, 2 years ago, they were arguably the second best team in the Big 12. Then last year they came back and didn't. They struggled very much. If they continue to struggle this year, I think he could be on the hot seat. But just and then one of the Stoops brothers, the one at Kentucky, forgot his name. I forget everyone's name.
Mark Stoops.
Mark Stoops. He also could be someone if they don't have if they don't have a phenomenal season. I think between the next few seasons, he might be fired. And also another person. I'll let you get back here in a second. But another person that could be on the hot seat, probably not, but might be on the hot seat is Minnesota's coach. Also forgot his name.
PJ Fleck.
He also could be on the hot seat. He had a few good seasons, but other than those like 3 seasons that they did well, they struggled a lot. So, but that's just me.
Yeah, another guy I really feel like would be like Steve Sarkisian at Texas.
I don't think he's being fired so soon. I think he last year wasn't amazing, but I don't want them to be amazing. So, but if they are good this season, he's gonna be there for like 5, 10 seasons. I don't think they're just gonna give up on him so fast. I think who was there before Steve Sarkisian?
Tom Herman, and
Tom Herman.
let's be honest, they stuck with him way too long.
Yeah, and that's what they're gonna do.
Steve Sarkisian.
He's not an amazing coach. He's a good coordinator, but as a coach, I don't think he's amazing. And they're gonna hold on to him way too long. And I feel like it's been another situation like Tom Herman, where he's just gonna be there forever until finally there's like, you're not doing anything. Let's just find someone better.
I will say this though, to be Steve Sarkisian, you got to be pretty lucky because you look at the 3 places you've coached. You started at Washington. Then after Lane Kiffin gets fired from USC, you take over there, and then you've got the Texas job. So with USC and Texas, you've had 2 of the biggest jobs in college football.
Yeah, and he's done pretty he's made some pretty good decisions on where he goes as far as team wise, because he always goes to teams that have like the most like they tolerate more because USC, they got an awful coach and he's not going to do anything for him, but they gave him so much just to be a bad coach. And then their quarterback's pretty bad too. I'm not going to say their names though.
Yeah, what Colton was mentioning was Lincoln Riley, the head coach, leaving Oklahoma, and his quarterback Caleb Williams following him to USC. So, yep, I understand.
They're very awful. They're awful coach and quarterback. They're gonna go like what 2-10.
Well, that is what we lead into now. Is the top 5 overrated and underrated teams. So, Colton.
All right, USC, South Carolina, Ohio State, probably, and you're gonna hate me for this, probably Alabama, just because, and an Ole Miss, because, and don't be mad. I know you're mad at me about Alabama. Don't be mad at me about Alabama. I think this season more than ever, I think their quarterback is very lackluster, and I feel like he shouldn't have won Heisman last year. And you look very furious with me, but I don't think Bryce Young. I think he's too cocky, and if I know anything, cocky quarterbacks. Speaking of cocky quarterbacks, Oklahoma had to deal with a very cocky quarterback 2 years ago and half of last season. So you don't want a cocky quarterback. And then I felt like Nick Saban's kind of hurt Alabama to an extent where he's done some. He's said some pretty controversial things this preseason, and I don't feel like he's done the best representation of Alabama this preseason. And then I think, and I hate Texas like a lot, but I think Texas might actually beat Alabama this year. But I'm not rooting for them. I hope Alabama wins, but and you look mad, so I'm gonna let you speak.
Okay, so that was overrated. Do you have underrated?
Teams?
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Clemson, uh, Mississippi State, uh, I would say that honestly, I think Vanderbilt's very underrated. I think they're going to be an amazing team this season, and Florida too. I think Florida has themselves an amazing coach. I don't think they're going to be this season. I don't think they're going to be like they're not going to be great, but I think they got themselves a good long term coach. And I feel like he could be like a Jimbo kind of thing. He's be like Jimbo Fisher. He's gonna do well at this team, go to another team, do well. He's gonna be a great coach.
Yeah. So I think my overrated, which I mean is very short. Utah. Trying to think. I think it's Michigan. I think Georgia. I feel like it's a little overrated. And as far as underrated, Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas, um, Penn State, Purdue. Even though Thursday night, Penn State and Purdue, that was a good game. In my rankings, folks, Penn State was 16 and Purdue was 25. That is where I had them because I felt both teams were really good. So, um,
Penn State's gonna beat Auburn. Can we disagree on that? Penn State's
yeah.
gonna, and
After
I know somebody who's gonna be furious with me, and once he sees this video, he's be mad at me for saying this. But I think for sure Auburn, they're gonna be okay this year, but Brian Harson's not gonna be on the team next year. Don't quote me on that, please. Don't no one said I told you so when they have a really good season and keep him, but
honestly, though,
I have to take my head on this.
I mean, if I'm going to give a prediction for this, I'm going to take Penn State, and I'm going to take them to win by 17 plus. That's what I'm saying.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Auburn with TJ Finley as their quarterback, they're going to be terrible. I'm just telling you that. TJ Finley is a terrible quarterback, and Auburn, they're going to play. Plus, they have no offensive line. Auburn's got no offensive line, and they don't have a good quarterback at all. So Auburn's due.
TJ Finley's not a bad quarterback. I think he's just
Robbie Ashford should be the starter.
No,
but I think Brian Harsin is out of his mind to think TJ Finley's better than Robbie Ashford.
Listen, I think they should start TJ the first 6 games, and then bring some. I don't think Robbie Ashford should be the starter. I think he can play, but I don't think he should be the starter.
All right, so now we have come to the part of the show. The last 20 minutes is what we're going to take. 10 games. Both of us will get a minute each, so that means 2 minutes a game, which would equal up to 20 minutes. So it is time to pick the football games, going from bottom to top. So, meaning that our first game we're going to be picking is Florida State at LSU tomorrow night. So, as Colton will get that pulled up real quick, and we'll go from bottom to top, 10-1 on what games we will be picking today.
Give me
So,
1 second. I have to figure this out.
Florida State, LSU tomorrow night, 6:30. It's going to be on ABC. And as Colton pulls up the slideshow, didn't have to have that pulled up. But either way, I'm going to take it may be a little unpopular. I'm going to take Florida State. I'm taking Florida State to beat LSU, and I'm going to take Florida State to win by, I'm going to say a touchdown, 7 points.
Okay. I love Florida State, but I got to pick LSU. They got a great new coach from Notre Dame. Forgot his name, as I always do. He's a great coach. And I feel like Florida State, I love Florida State, but I don't think they can even match the amount of talent LSU has this season.
So you're going to take Florida State?
Yep.
All right. So there it is right there on the screen right there. As you can see, Florida State at LSU Sunday at 6:30. And didn't have to have the slideshow pulled up. But we will work through our technical difficulties. Either way. Then we pick Clemson at Georgia Tech. Monday at 7 o'clock. So, Colton, you begin this time.
All right, what teams again?
Clemson at Georgia Tech. This one's going to be played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, which will be basically a home game for the Yellow Jackets.
Georgia Tech. No, not Clemson. Sorry, I think Clemson's gonna beat Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech's a decent team, but Clemson's Clemson, and they have how did I forget the coach's name? Dabo Swinney. And I think there's no way Georgia Tech wins.
Yep, I'm going Clemson as well. Georgia Tech. Jeff Collins should have been a guy I should have mentioned, but I think he's probably done after the season. I mean, I'm surprised he's lasted this long at Georgia Tech. So, yeah, Clemson's going to take down Georgia Tech big time on Monday night.
Can we be honest? Teams like Georgia Tech, there's no way they're going to win the national championship.
Agreed.
There are teams that hire these amazing coaches, spend way too much. USC, for instance, they spent way too much money on the man that I will never mention his name ever again.
Lincoln Riley.
Don't say that name. Either way, they spent so much money on him, and they're never even going to make the playoff. Even 12 team playoff or not, there's no way they're making it. And
can we quote you on that?
Yes, quote me on that.
Oh, okay.
I am 1,000% confident. As long as the L word is at USC, they're not going to be very good.
Okay. So
quote me on that. In 10 years, once they fire the L word, he will not be. They'll never have made the playoff. They'll never have won a bowl game. They will never have won over 6 games. And he'll be fired and be an offensive coordinator for the rest of his career. And then as far as their quarterback, who also I will never say his name again, even if he goes to the Buccaneers in the
Caleb
NFL,
Williams.
Don't say that name either. Either way, I don't think he's going to get drafted. He's going to have an awful season. He's not going to have 1,000 yards this season if he plays every game. I think he's going to have 800 yards.
Wow.
And I am being honest.
We went from picking Clemson, Georgia Tech to a rant about USC. That is the beauty of college football wraparound, folks. All right. It's time to get to our next game as we both chuckle at each other. Army at Coastal Carolina. This one's at 6 o'clock tonight. What you think, Colton?
Coastal Carolina is gonna win this game. They are an amazing team. I honestly, Coastal Carolina, that's a team that I would not be shocked if one of these days they mess around and somehow make the playoff. If 12 man, I'm not saying if it's 14 playoff, there's no way that they'll ever make the 4-team playoff. But it's 12-team playoff, they could mess around and do it. They're definitely a sleeper team, and I think they could very easily go 10-2 this season.
Wow. Jamie Chadwell is a guy that I'm really shocked has not gotten a Power 5 job yet. Or maybe that just says how much he loves being at Coastal Carolina. But either way, Coastal is going to be good this season. But I'm taking Army in this game. Army, I mean, they just have this way of just, they are going to run it down your throat, and they're going to have 7-minute drives, and you're going to have to physically beat these guys. I mean, Army, these aren't just guys who are looking to play football. These guys are going into the Army. So, I mean, these are tough men right here. And these are truly men you're playing against at Army. So,
Honestly,
Army.
To be honest, so Coastal Carolina, they pass the ball, they run the ball, they do everything. Army has literally one play they play the whole game, and it's just hand the ball off, or the quarterback runs, or just sweep. There's never a shocking play. You always know what they're doing. If they do pass it, you know they're gonna pass it because the quarterback actually, you can tell. So, and with Coastal Carolina, their defense is good enough. I think that this will be one of the most. I think it's gonna end in a blowout. Maybe not a shutout, but a blowout.
Okay. All right, our next one is Arizona at San Diego State. This one's at 2:30. This is on CBS, which in a couple of weeks will begin their second to last season of the SEC broadcast. So, what do you think?
Do I even have to say it? Arizona's gonna win this game. It's gonna be a pretty easy win for them. I think it's gonna be probably a 14-point game. Maybe even a 17-point game. I think it's going to be kind of like the Oklahoma State game that we watched. It's going to be pretty one-sided the whole game. Then at the end, San Diego State's going to kind of fight. But I don't think there's a way that San Diego State can beat Arizona. I like Arizona. And I think they're going to win this game by 14.
I'm going to take San Diego State. I'm not a big believer in Arizona this season. Just not. So I feel like Arizona's going to be the same Arizona as they've always been, and I think I'm going to take San Diego State.
Can we agree to disagree on that one?
Yep. All right, here we go. Rutgers at Boston College. This one is coming up in moments, and it will be on the ACC network. So, Colton, what do you think?
This is a hard one. I don't really particularly like either of these teams, per se. I can't recall the last time I even cared to put on a Rutgers or Boston College game. So I'm just going to guess probably Boston College, because last I checked, they were decent last year. But I'm kind of 50-50 here. I don't know, like I said, I don't know the last time I even cared to watch Rutgers or Boston College play. I have nothing against the schools. It's just when there's teams like Oklahoma especially, I could care less to watch this game.
I'm going to take Rutgers, and because I like what Greg Schiano is doing at Rutgers.
Yeah, I couldn't even have told you he was their coach.
Yeah,
I know who that is. I just couldn't have told you that.
Well, here's the thing, though. Tennessee could have had him, but the fans got in the way of that. But either way,
That's
Rutgers.
Tennessee. That's a very Tennessee thing. But the who was it they threw Mayo at in golf ball?
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
It was Mustard, though.
Oh, Mustard. Sorry, I got my condiments wrong.
You're good, but I'm going to take Rutgers. I think they win this game by a touchdown. I think that's very fair for this, and I think this is going to be a defensive football game, and I don't expect a lot of points in this one. So, all right, our next
I
one.
don't expect it to be any of a game anyway.
NC State at East Carolina, and Romeo. I believe it's no. Whatever. I don't remember what I was about to say. Anyway, it's NC State at East Carolina. This one's coming up in moments as well. Colton, what do you think about this one?
Again, I really do not care about this game. If North Carolina State wins, cool. If honestly, it's East Carolina because at least I've seen East Carolina play. I don't think I've ever seen North Carolina State play. Unless they played against North Carolina, the real deal school. I don't really. Not a lot of good games this week, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'll go with you as well, Colton. I'm going to go East Carolina because I think I'm going to take an upset right here. I think it's going to happen. All right, our next one, Utah at Florida. This one is coming up in prime time tonight, 6 o'clock, ESPN.
Now, this game is actually extremely exciting for me. I think Florida will win this game, but not by a lot.
I think Florida wins as well. Yeah, not by a lot. This one is going to be one of those games where we really figure out early what these teams are going to be this season. Utah, I feel like we're most likely expecting better defense than what we saw in the Rose Bowl. Florida, we feel like, is going to have a little bit of a step up, but not too much because they got a new coach in Billy Napier. But this surely is going to be a really fun game to watch. And I think Florida pulls it out at the end. I'm going to say this would be more of a 17-14 style game, but that's just me. What about you, Cole?
I think Florida's a better team. Although, I don't think it's going to be 17-14. I think it could very easily be 6-3. I think they have great defenses, and Billy Napier, I'm really excited to see him coach. And more so, I'm picking them because I'm excited to see them. But yeah.
All right, our next one as we get to our last three games, Cincinnati at Arkansas. What do you think about this one?
I think Cincinnati by probably 17.
What?
Did you not see Cincinnati in the playoff last year?
Okay, but here,
Arkansas. Can you tell me one notable fact about Sam Pittman other than he's the coach at Arkansas? Do you know anything remotely remarkable about him? For instance, besides him saying yes, sir, do you know anything about him? Tell me.
Okay, think about it this way. He was the offensive line coach at Georgia for a couple years, of course.
How many years? Tell me. How many?
2 or 3, maybe. But either way, my point being, though, he was at Georgia. He is a guy who I believe coached at Arkansas before, and I mean, you got to think about it this way. With Chad Morris, they did not win an SEC game. The first season of Sam Pittman, they win 3 SEC games. The next year, they end up winning a bunch of SEC games, and they end the season 9-4. Here we are, 2022, opener. and they really are underrated. A lot underrated. 19? Are you kidding me? They should be like 6, in my opinion. That's how high I feel like they are. They are going to blow the socks off of Cincinnati. Cincinnati has lost Spencer Rattler, Desmond Ritter, and they lost Ahmad Sauce Gardner, their best defensive
They don't need
player.
them. They don't need them. I think Cincinnati, at this point, I think they're like Notre Dame level good. I think they have the team, the pieces. Now they just kind of have to put it together. And if they beat Arkansas, I think they should be ranked top 15.
Okay, well,
And I think they're
agreed.
going to be in the playoffs this year. I think they're going to end the season 3.
All right, agree to disagree. All right, we're coming down to our last two. Oregon versus Georgia. This one is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia.
Do you really even have to take 2 seconds to think about this one? Georgia, they're national champs. They have the best, and you're getting mad at me. They're the current best coach in the NCAA. Nick Saban is old and tired, Cooper.
You just said Kirby Smart, who learned under Nick Saban.
That's why he's better.
He's better?
Okay, let's move on. Just tell me.
What?
Oregon or Georgia? Just tell me.
I'm going Georgia, but
Okay, let's move on. What's next? What's the next?
All right. And folks, the game of the week, Notre Dame at Ohio State. We've waited a long time for this game, the big game of the year, to begin the year at least. And this one is going to be fun. Only thing is, Ohio State is favored by 17. So, Colton, who are you taking?
I'm taking Notre Dame to win. I really do not like either of these schools. Both these schools, I despise. But I think Notre Dame's at least better. They have a good coach. Like, a very underrated coach. I should have put him as one of my underrated coaches. He has, like, one of the most underrated coach. And then Ohio State, what's notable about them this year besides C.J. Stroud?
They actually return maybe who's going to be the best receiver in college football with Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I'm taking Ohio State because of this.
Never heard.
Because C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba, they played together last season. They have the continuity together that they're going to be able to play really good.
Never heard.
Plus they've got Trevion Henderson, the running back.
Never heard of him.
So you have got the best one. You got the best quarterback, running back, wide receiver tandem that you're going to find in college football.
Never heard of any of them.
So
Besides CJ.
I'm taking Ohio State in this game. This is going to be in prime time, and we will be bringing this to you live tonight. So I'll be doing the play-by-play. I'll give you some analysis as well. And then the plan is that I will have somebody do some studio stuff, getting us some updates throughout the game and do the halftime. So that is the plan for tonight. But Notre Dame and Ohio State, that is our game of the week here on Saver Broadcast Network. So, of course, I am excited to do this with you, Colton, and you'll be...
Can I add something?
Yes.
Depending who wins Notre Dame versus Ohio State, whoever loses will not be in the playoff. Just saying. I'm just saying that. Just throwing it out there. Ohio State loses, I think that's setting them back to number 7. I don't think they can recover from that. Because they have yet to play against Michigan. Last year, Michigan was pretty sneaky there.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan has the potential to be good this season. I think Jim Harbaugh isn't a good enough coach. But you have to let it in your mind. Michigan's a hot and ready team. They're like a pizza. They're hot and ready, and it's an awful analogy. but I think that Michigan's going to beat Ohio State this year. And I think Notre Dame will beat Ohio State. And Notre Dame, I don't think they're going to be all that good this season. I think their coach is going to be really good, but I don't really think they're going to be. I don't think either of these teams are going to be in the playoffs this year. Just hot take.
All right. Well, that is his hot take, and it's the last one of the night. So we thank y'all for watching, and we will see you later tonight for Ohio State at Notre Dame. Well, Notre Dame at Ohio State. So we'll see you later.